Welcome back to your weekly astrology forecast. We made it through June and we are in Cancer season. So I was telling my sister yesterday, I don't know if it's Cancer season or if it's late stage capitalism or if it's witnessing multiple atrocities at the same time, or it's my luteal phase, or if I'm in perimenopause, but I feel so emotional. Um, I feel like I could cry at any moment. So if y'all feel the same way, let me know. But alas, this is summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, at least. And I really needed a good book to get my mind off of things because I'm currently taking, oh, I put the book away, but I'm currently taking this advanced astrology workshop class. It's not a workshop, and I'm reading all these technical things and I'm reading about history, and I just needed something to take the edge off. And so my sister recommended Lessons in Chemistry. Has anybody read that? I know I'm kind of late to the game, but it's a really good book. And it's pretty much about this woman who's just trying to be herself. She's very smart and she lives in a period of the United States that's like late 50s, early 60s. And she obviously, because of the time period, she can't make her dreams come true. So I wanted to read this because I felt like it was so appropriate for the moment right now. It doesn't have any spoiler alerts, but she's a chemist, lessons in chemistry. So here we go. Chemistry is change, she wrote. Whenever you start doubting yourself, she said, turning back to the audience, whenever you feel afraid, just remember courage is the root of change. And change is what we're chemically designed to do. So when you wake up tomorrow, make this pledge: no more holding yourself back, no more subscribing to others' opinions of what you can and cannot achieve, and no more allowing anyone to pigeonhole you into useless categories of sex, race, economic status, and religion. Do not allow your talents to lie dormant, ladies. Design your own future. When you go home today, ask yourself what you will change and then get started. And I feel like that is the astrology of the moment. I come on here every week now. Oh my God, I'm literally going to start to cry. I literally come on here every week and every month with my co host, Stephanie Campos, to do the monthly astrology forecast. And I show up on Instagram and I show up on TikTok, really believing, like, to a delusional amount, with so much faith, that we have the capability to change our lives and we have the capability to change the collective. Like, I don't know where this comes from, but I believe it. And sometimes I have to believe it even when there's no evidence. And it seems like the odds are being stacked against us and our own personal dreams. But I think it's our responsibility that we're alive. And if you're watching this or listening to this, we have at least the technology to get our messages across, get our talents across, get what we came here to share across, that it is our personal responsibility to not allow our talents to lie dormant in ourselves. And so I've been asking myself, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And I pray every single day to my ancestors, my spirit guides, please help me to move this forward, pull me forward. I ask, like, what is it that I'm meant to say to people to help people remember why they're here? And I think that's ultimately what I'm here for, is to remind people that you have a talent, you have a magic. and you came here at this specific time in history. We all signed up to come here because of my studies of astrology, because of my studies of history. I understand how nobody would really choose this, right? Like willingly. We all want to live a happy life. We all want to just be safe and secure, and we want to have dignity. And then I asked myself, why is it that my parents specifically chose to come here? And I was born here on this soil in the United States. That was not by accident either. And I believe those of us who are privileged enough to be here in the United States or the West, we're meant to use these talents to not be silent, to speak up about injustices. And honestly, watching people know about things that are happening and stay silent have been more detrimental to my mental health than anything. I think that's what's getting me like, my brain is like, my brain has not been braining because I can't make sense of that. There's no empirical evidence or like scientific understanding of how that's possible. That to me does not make sense. I told you I was going to cry. But anyway, I feel like I decided to use the tool of astrology because that is something that's rooted, right? It's a structure. There's a reasoning to all of the timing. There is a pattern. There is a cycle to all of this. There is a meaning, because I can't help but think that this is all happening for a reason. Because if I didn't believe in something, I literally would go crazy. So I'm sharing this with you because there's all this stuff happening in the mundane, in the collective astrology, but there's also a personal astrology that impacts you. And we deserve to live the life of our dreams. We deserve to manifest our dreams. And if anything, we have a responsibility to do that, because when we, the conscious people who have woken up to the atrocities of this world and who the real enemy is, and we all live within our destiny and our purpose, we are the people, those are the people that bring about change. Because when you do the thing that you're meant to do, you have energy, you feel fulfilled, you feel like aligned. And there is nothing more dangerous to the status quo than people who are following their path and who have the energy, who have the heart, who have the compassion and empathy. And then you find each other because of the red string theory and how you are meant to work with certain people and you are meant to fall in love with certain people. And it's not until you start to share your magic that you start to connect with these people. I had to blow my nose because I was getting so stuffy. And I knew the minute I would start talking about this that I would get emotional, because I feel like it feels like the stakes are so high right now, and it's probably been like this for a long time. And I feel like I'm just passing on, or I'm just being given a baton of like previous generations and continuing the work of people that have come before us. And I feel this huge weight of responsibility um, from like generations and generations of my own ancestors, that like it feels like, because it's Cancer season, this is like the ancestral memories and the um family lineages that have brought us all here. And so it just feels like a really big deal, and it feels really emotional. And like I said, Cancer season. So anyway, if you are watching this, this is what I wanted to really share. And I hope that I just keep reminding you every single day of how important you are. And if you feel like giving up, that you need to remember that you are here for divine purpose. So when you hear the weekly astrology and you hear there's this opportunity for you to use it, I hope you do, in the midst of the mundane astrology where everything is breaking apart. And we need this breaking apart to happen because this is the change, this is the revolution that we've been asking for, that we've been praying for, that our ancestors sacrificed their lives so that we can live this life. I'm also feeling all of this because I've been watching a lot of Korean dramas lately, and I'm rewatching Mr. Sunshine. I watched that in like, I think 2019 or 2020. I think I watched it 2020 during the pandemic. And so I'm watching it 5 years later with this understanding of where I am now. And if you haven't watched that movie, it's a beautifully made TV series, but it begins with US imperialism in Korea, which back then was known as the Joseon era or the Joseon dynasty. And it just like something visceral again was happening with me where I'm like, oh my God, um, this right now, what we're experiencing is the breaking apart of that empire that so many years ago invaded my motherlands. And of course, because our bodies are so connected to our ancestors and our ancestral lands, that it's things that are coming up right now for me. And so this is also like just context of like where I am emotionally. But yeah, Cancer season. Oh my God, Cancer is my eighth house. Okay. I'm in the eighth house perfection year. So it's like more it's more like emotional for me because clearly I'm clearing some shit out of my like um old patterning and behaviors. So I'm deciding to not cut this out and being emotional and being vulnerable because normally I'll just like try to internalize things and come on when I'm like, perfect or whatever perfect means. But I feel like this is really good for me to practice to not be perfect and to just show up how I am. So, just the recap, on June 24th, we had a Jupiter Kazemi, and that was the day of the New York City Democratic mayoral ranking. And Zoran Mandani wins the Democratic ticket for the mayoral race. And I thought this was so Jupiter in Cancer, Kazemi, because Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. It's all about it's all about luck and abundance. And Jupiter, like I mentioned last week, is being renewed in the heart of the sun, but it's also being blessed. And for me, when Jupiter goes through a water sign, like it does in its domicile in Pisces and its exaltation in Cancer, I have a Jupiter in Scorpio. It's more about emotional abundance. It's more about feeling it like embodied versus the external abundance that you would probably experience more in like a Jupiter in Sagittarius kind of thing, or even in an Earth sign. But this is why a lot of people might be like, where is my Jupiter Kazemi blessing? Like, why didn't that happen? Or, post new moon in Cancer, when there were a lot of people saying, this is so lucky and everything like that. First of all, I want to say that you have to look at your own personal chart. The Jupiter Kazemi would have impacted you if you were a Jupiter ruled person, so Sagittarius and Pisces rising, or if Jupiter is your time lord, or if this specific transit, which was at 3 degrees of Cancer, hit your natal placements. So everything that happens, all the transits that happen in the mundane sense won't always affect you. Sometimes you'll just go about your life and not feeling anything. Like even the really challenging ones, like the Mars square Uranus, a lot of people just went about their day not even realizing that it was a challenging day. And then other people who have those specific angles or placements at the later degrees of the fixed sign placements really felt it, right? So not all transits are created equal. And also, like I said, a Jupiter Kazemi in a water sign like Cancer is more about the embodiment of the feelings of abundance and feeling the overflow internally. And this was about setting intentions to plant seeds where you might see the fulfillment of them weeks or months or a year later, even because this is a resetting of a new cycle. So I just wanted to say that in case anybody was like, what the heck? And so when it comes to somebody like Zoran Mandani, this could have been a fulfillment of something that he obviously worked on maybe years past, or this was hitting his personal placements, which I saw now that there is a timed chart for him, but it's an A rating. It's not AA rating. But he is a Libra sun, Aquarius moon, and supposedly Leo rising, which would have his Cancer house in the 12th. But anyway, this is a big deal because Zoran Mamdani went on his campaign and did not receive any PAC money, which is a huge thing. And for Democrats to pay attention to. And he is also a socialist. He ran his campaign with raising the minimum wage to $30, to having free buses, free grocery stores in every block. And he won over a pretty well-known name here in New York, Cuomo, who is a sexual predator, FYI. And so this is a big deal also because this is like New York City. There's 8 million people in New York City. And this could be something that shows a wave in other cities because at the end of the day, people vote for affordability versus his identity. He is a Muslim man. He is an immigrant. He is, somebody who has said free Palestine. So this was everybody was like very joyful that day. You felt this excitement that I feel like a lot of people haven't felt in a really long time. So we shall see, inshallah, in November, he becomes our mayor. On June 27th, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez got married in Venice. And I just thought that, like, looking at the guests was so Pluto and Aquarius to me. And first of all, I think they said like over 50 private jets flew into Venice. Now, we are in the midst of a climate crisis, okay? And having this visual of all these billionaires and millionaires flying in their private jets in a city that is essentially flooded, right? It's a city on water, and them all flying in for this technocrat's wedding. Jeff Bezos is worth $200 billion. I personally think that's really weird. Like, what are you saving up for, bro? He cannot possibly spend all of that money in this lifetime. Even $1 billion. It's impossible. Like, if he gave away $199 billion, he would still be a billionaire. Like, that amount of money to me is just crazy. And you cannot be a billionaire through ethical means. So I just thought that was so Pluto and Aquarius, right? And then on the same day, the Supreme Court ruled that lower court judges lack the authority to place nationwide holds on restrictions to birthright citizenship, which is something that Donald Trump wants to do. His interpretation of what birthright citizenship actually means. And this was a split court. This was a 6-3 decision, and we'll see like what this will mean further on down the line. Now, this is a really big deal, and we should all be very concerned because, first of all, this is rich coming from people who are like nobody is illegal on stolen land, first of all. And we are all technically immigrants, except for the indigenous people of this land, of the Americas. So it's really interesting and delusional. It's very Neptune of your interpretation of birthright citizenship. Like, who actually has the right to be called a citizen, right? And so, I thought this was interesting given that we are in a Neptune and Aries moment right now. And the last time Neptune was in Aries was when the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868. And this was after the Civil War. Um, this was a war between the North and the South over the Emancipation Proclamation of chattel slavery. And as sort of this um like I would say kind of like this concession of the United States being like, okay, we'll free the black people and we'll do the 13th Amendment, we'll make them citizens. So that's how we got the 14th Amendment, when any person born on US soil is then a US citizen. And then the 15th Amendment. These were laws that, as Amanda Seales has said on her show, what the ancestors when the ancestors are called. By the way, if you ever get to see her show, you have to. It's brilliant. But she says in her show that I can't say the word because it's the N word, but it's basically like, here, we'll just give this to you because you're like annoying us with this freedom thing. But in actuality, like, these amendments weren't really, people weren't actually liberated in the structures of our society, in our culture, right? Because slavery just transformed then to the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, and through capitalism. So the fact that now birthright citizenship is like Trump wants to basically say that certain people have the right to be birthright citizens and not, is calling back to the last Neptune in Aries. And he basically wants to do this to have the power to say, like, these types of people, if you know what I mean, have the right to be birthright citizens, and everybody else who are not of a unmelanated skin tone are not. And so he has the freedom to and when you start doing that, because that is also what Nazi Germany did before the Holocaust, is segregate people based on their citizenship. So it should be very alarming to everybody that this happened. And when these things happen, it's like, that's why you can't say that these things are happening to those people over there in Palestine or Congo, right? Because anything that we accept happens to people over there. And it's not even people over there. It's what happened to the indigenous people of this land. It's what happened to, what's happening now to immigrants that are being deported. And that's why you can't say that you're safe because you are a US citizen, because at any moment, these people in power can rewrite laws based on their interpretation of who's considered a citizen or not. So, like, people who are of the global majority or marginalized communities, like, your privilege or whatever intersection of privilege you have will not protect you. This is why we all have to start speaking up, and we all have to be politically active. So that's the recap that I had, at least. I'm sure there were so many amazing things that happened in the world. I just felt like I had to say these things because I think a lot of people, I mean, we weren't educated on these things I went to a public education system. So let me know if they taught you anything different in the private school system. but we were really taught the real history in school. And so this is information and knowledge that I had to learn on my own through my own spare time. And because I'm not locked into a 9 to 5 corporate job, I have the time to do that. And so this is, I feel, my responsibility to also share with people like what's at stake, right? Because also people don't necessarily have the political acumen or the understanding of like what's going on in real time as it relates to the astrology and what could possibly happen. Um, so this astrology forecast is actually for the week of June 30th to July 6th. So June 30th is the last day of June, and we're in a waxing phase of the moon. So we just had a new moon in Cancer, and so something is building. It might have been some of the seeds you've been planting from either the new moon in Capricorn that happened 6 months ago, this new moon in Cancer, or whatever cycle you're on. And so something is building. Emotions are coming up to the surface, right? And so, like I mentioned in the beginning, we're in Cancer season. So the moon rules the season. We're feeling a lot of things. We're trying to um, come to this point of understanding where we are in this moment based on our history and how we got here, and also reconciling things from our family, our lineages, what's our responsibility to our families, and also like our homeland, right? My homeland is the United States. What is my responsibility as a US citizen to the people of this land, to this earth, the home, right? And also, like I mentioned in many different forecasts, Cancer season is lighting up the United States Sibley chart. So while there could be all of these wonderful things happening in your own personal life as a reflection of Jupiter in Cancer, how it shows up in a nation's chart might just be expanding more of its boundaries, borders, nationalism, racism, and stuff like that. So we want to mitigate some of those harmful things that are being put out in the collective by working on ourselves, looking at our internal world, because I do believe, like I said, that does have an impact. It is so important to do this work. So June 30th, Mercury is in its retro shadow from 4 degrees of Leo. This is the moment that you want to start to pay attention to for the next like 2 to 3 weeks before Mercury goes retrograde in the middle of July, because I've found that during the retro shade is when the shit starts like coming out, right? Like the themes of the retrograde. The actual retrograde is reflecting on what it is that you want to do, or reflecting on the past. Even people from your past start showing up. And then when Mercury goes forward is when you start to course correct the lessons, the reflections of the Mercury retrograde. Mercury is going to, I think it's today, actually, the day that I'm filming this, June 29th, is right now opposing Pluto. So when Mercury opposes Pluto, something, and maybe that's why I cried, because something is coming up to the surface, something hidden, something that was laying in the shadows, some power dynamics that maybe have been holding you back, limiting beliefs. I keep drawing the hanged man card because I know that something else is emerging from like what I'm meant to do, but I don't know what it is yet. But I know that my past is ending, or like it's done, like nothing is moving forward. And so my impatience is like, what's next? What should I do next? But everything is at a standstill. And it's probably also because it's Cancer season. Like I said, my own personal transits, it's an eighth house. It's like forcing me to look internally at the patterning and breaking my patterns, my limitations, the ways in which I hold myself back before I start to do the new thing. On July 2nd is a third quarter moon in Libra. And I mentioned the third quarter moon too, because this is a 38-hour void of course moon. If you want to get something done and you want a positive like outcome, I would not necessarily launch anything on this day because what happens in a void of course moon is the moon before it switches signs, it doesn't make any other aspects. So it's kind of just like hanging out in the air. It's not really doing anything. And the moon is probably one the most important planet for manifestation and getting something done in manifested in the physical reality. And it's a 38-hour void of course moon is really long. However, if you want to do something and you know that it'll get an opposition and you don't want the opposition, this is the day to do it. So Ronald Reagan, the president, his wife was really into astrology. And this is like facts, like you could look this up. And so Ronald Reagan used an astrologer for when he needed to pass bills, he would pass them during a void of course moon to get the least amount of resistance. So you can think of you can think of it that way. Like if there was something that you knew was going to get like people triggered or you didn't want people to respond to you, like let's say you wanted to post something on social media that you really want to share, but you don't want to get trolls or something like that, this would be a great time to do that on a void of course moon. Or if you want to, yeah, I mean, the only reason why I wouldn't use a void of course moon is to launch something new. Like if you want good reception and engagement on something. On July 4th, Venus will conjunct Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, which I think is okay. At the individual level, I think this could be a surprising, like a surprising source of income or money, or you get an epiphany of like, wow, I really have what it takes. Because Venus rules things like value, relationships. Uranus has this shocking, revolutionary feeling about it in the sign of Taurus, which is like embodiment and the earth. However, at the mundane level, this could portend to some financial unexpected financial crisis or the markets crashing. Or, I mean, this is the 4th of July too. This is the USA's solar return. So I'm just like thinking of like all the ways in which this could manifest at the mundane level where it's like shocking in some way. But maybe something shocking with like money or a new form of currency is announced that day. It's at the anaretic degree, which I've come to understand that 29 degree to be the crashing out degree. So look out for July 4th. I would be very just aware of your surroundings. If you see something, say something. This is something that we've all learned post 9/11. Don't take any necessary risks. Just allow yourself to be embodied, do a lot of nervous system recalibration. On the same day, Venus moves into the sign of Gemini. This is a total vibe shift because Venus in Gemini is more flirty, more communicative, more curious. This is not a transit where it's necessarily about commitment, but meeting new people. Venus in Gemini has a reputation of not being committed, but just seeing what's out there. So Venus in Gemini could be a great time to be open to like dating apps or going out and flirting, going on speed dating, or just meeting like-minded, or I hate using that term like-minded, but just meeting people who are of the same, like not like-minded, because obviously you're not going to be attracted to people who are like obviously racist or something like that, but people who like sapiosexuals, like get your ideas and curiosities going, people who stimulate your mind, people who are kind of talkative and maybe even yeah, maybe that you even don't agree with and you have a stimulating conversation with. And on the same day, Neptune stations retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. Now, Neptune entered Aries in March, right? And so from March to July, Neptune has been trying to allow you to reimagine, dream your Aries whole sign house. So now you're going to go back. You're going to go back and ask yourself, is this real? What is real? What is not real? Neptune in Aries for me is also like, what do I believe I can do? How am I allowing my dreams to come to the forefront of my experience? So I'm having that moment right now. I am an Aries and I'm kind of just asking myself, like, what were those dreams that I had as a kid that I've put on the back burner that now I can bring back to the forefront of my mind and ask myself, like, is what I'm doing now still what I want to do? And am I doing it because it's comfortable? Is this something that challenges me? Is this something that I, yeah, all of the things, all of the curiosities. So pay attention to what happens on July 4th. Also at the mundane level, again, like this could be because things really started to kick up globally, the aggressions and the war and the bombing since March, since Aries, since Neptune and Saturn moved into the sign of Aries. So now that it's retracing, it's like maybe we're going to go back to some of those things and being like, getting, revealing the truth of, you know, I mean, even though most of us know that it was a lot of propaganda, a lot of those truths might be coming out at this time. On July 6th, Venus in Gemini will sextile Saturn in Aries at 1 degree, and then later that day will sextile Neptune in at 2 degrees. I really like July 6th. Venus with meeting up with Saturn is like you're locking something in, you're Venus and Gemini, like I said, it's meeting like-minded people, it's being curious about certain things, it's having this like driven by sapiosexuals. You're really wanting to meet different people, and then Saturn to me is like locking in that energy. It could be like you're serious about somebody and you you like want to see what happens. But personally, sextiles are 60-degree angles of the nature of Venus. So this could just be like, I think of sextiles to be these transits that kind of happen in the back burner. It's like this moment of, okay, on a Venus sextile Saturn day, I'm really going to recommit to something, Venusian. I'm going to recommit to these relationships that I have. I'm going to tell the people that I love them. I'm going to recommit to my practice, my rituals, whatever the case may be. And then when Venus and Gemini sextile Neptune and Aries, this is a really lovely transit again of like meeting people, dreaming things together, imagining. Venus and Neptune, when they come together in a lovely trine, it's like a little bit of like Delulu energy, but in a good way. Like meeting, okay, so this is like giving this auspicious energy of like meeting somebody on July 6th or meeting up with friends and being like, how can I help you make your dreams come true? How can we help each other in this mutual way, right? In our communal way. This is also could be like meeting your neighbors. Have you done that? Because Gemini has this like very brotherly, sisterly neighborhood kind of vibe. It could also be reaching out to your own siblings if you have them, or cousins or family members, and just like recommitting to things. Because boy, do we need to do this. The very next day, which is not in this weekly astrology forecast, but what we'll talk about more next week, is that on July 7th, Uranus enters Gemini for the first time since 1948. And this is a big effing deal. So, like I mentioned, 2025, 2024, 2025, 2026, all these outer planets are changing signs at the same time. 2024, November, we had Pluto moving into Aquarius for 20 years. We had Neptune moving into Aries for the next 14 years. We have Saturn moving into Aries for the next 3 years. And now we're going to have Uranus and Gemini for the next 7 years. Now, these planets are going to start to go retrograde in July, and they're going to move back into their feminine signs in the fall. Now, this is the time to pay attention to from now until the fall when these planets go back and forth and back and forth. And you might be feeling that also internally. It's like we're still part of the old system and structure that's dying, right? The empire that's crumbling. And then the new part of us is like just emerging and trying to like form, but it's not quite there yet. So a lot of us feel this fracturing. And a lot of my clients are in these like similar time periods where people want to quit their jobs, but they need that paycheck, but they want to do that new thing. And I would say that it's okay to be in both of these worlds. And it's almost like we have to be at this point because it's like we're not completely, like, we haven't completely finished this thing, this like gosh, a part of me though is already there. Like I have Aquarius placements. My mind is already in the future, but Uranus and Gemini is going to bring so much change technologically, and also time is going to feel like it's going by so fast, just given the nature of Uranus in an air sign. And so I don't want to like jump to the gun by saying what I think is going to happen because I'll save that for next week, but I just want to prepare you for this week because this week's transits are a little more like in the background supporting you in order for you to in order for you individually and for all of us to step into this new era of what's to come. We are in a time of revolution, period. This energy can be used for the oppressed and the oppressor. The oppressed are already doing it. They've got a plan, they've got a checklist, they already know what they want, they're doing it. Now it's up to us, the people of the global majority, the people who are conscious, open hearted, and ready to take action to use these energies of revolution in our favor. And that's going to take everybody's participation. This is a group project. And of course, I know group projects, not everyone's going to be actually doing it, but this is why I feel like a lot of us have awakened at this time and came at this particular time in history, and as a result like meeting each other because we are all meant to do this together. Like the reason why past revolutions have not done what was meant to be done, I feel like, was because trauma was just repackaged and transformed. Now, with social media, we see lies being exposed at almost like in real time. We have social media to disseminate and educate each other. And also, we have the tools now of rituals and ceremonies that we carried in our DNA from our ancestors so that we can heal and be embodied and regulate our nervous systems so that we are not repeating patterns and just transmuting the trauma and coming from and going from being the oppressed to the oppressor, which is what's happening right now in to the Israelis, right? Like they are just repackaging the trauma of what happened to their people back in the Holocaust, which again, that's another Uranus and Gemini time period. So I'm just saying this because again, the revolution starts from within. This is like you have to do the healing inside that will contribute to the collective effort. So, anyway, thank you so much for allowing me to cry on video and for allowing me to share this message that like really needed to come out. And thank you for your support, for sharing, subscribing, and for all of your lovely comments. I really appreciate you. And I will see you next week. Bye.